Welcome to Cancer Bites, bold voices, big insights, and unstoppable energy, because cancer doesn't get the last word. Let's dive in.
Welcome again to everyone to Cancer Bites. We are using this episode tonight to kick off Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we want to focus on stories of strength, survival, and hope, and we really want to amplify the voices that remind us that we're never alone, and we have two very powerful journeys that we want to share tonight. So we'll just reintroduce ourselves. For those of you who may not have known us before or known us from last week, Siobhan, you can say a few words about yourself as the founder.
Hi, everybody. I'm Siobhan
Hi.
Shaw. For those of you that don't know me, I am the founder of Cancer Bites podcast and community. And the reason I'm the founder is because I was recently diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, and it's in my bones, my lung filled with fluid. So it's in my lungs, it's in my liver, it's just about everywhere you can think of. But a few weeks ago, I've been on treatments, an incredible pill that I take for 3 weeks, and then I have a week off. And about 3 weeks ago now, I felt normal again. I'm not tired. I told my oncologist at my recent appointment, I don't feel like I have cancer. And so my stay alive to 105 motto may come true, because I am going to show cancer who's boss, but I'm going to make sure along the way I help other women that are going through that fear and trepidation that we all go through when you're told that you have breast cancer, you have a certain amount of years to live, and they'll make you as comfortable as possible. So I want to take the limelight off of me and make sure that we hear all the voices out there, and we raise up, oh, I'm getting goosebumps, and we raise everybody up and make breast cancer an amazing journey to go through, because it changes you, but I think it changes you for the better. So Stacey, I want you guys to have a great night, and I can't wait to hear Lynn and Kayla's stories.
I'm very excited to hear them as well. Myself, I am a media professional, also as co-host. My background is initially actually in education and climate law and climate justice, and I'm a cancer advocate in that I have so many friends and family and loved ones who over the years have been affected by cancer and breast cancer. And there's a level of powerlessness you feel as a friend and a loved one. And I finally thought when I heard of this initiative, and I thought, okay, this is something I can do. And I just want to be there to help amplify the stories of triumph. So without any further ado, we're going to go into Lynn's story. And Lynn, we know you as an 11-year breast cancer survivor, and you have a journey that is just really incredible. And I know that you'd love to share. And I know we call it a journey of survival, but I like to call it a journey of thriving as well. And do you have a particular point in that journey that you'd like to share that stands out, or would you like to tell us about it from the beginning and how it's evolved? Please, the floor is yours. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm really honored to be here. And thank you for putting this podcast together. I think that going through cancer can be isolating, and it's so important that people know that they aren't alone and that there's community out there. So for me, from the beginning, I was diagnosed with stage 1 IDC at age 31, and I tested positive for the BRCA2 gene. So they basically threw the book at me. I started with a double mastectomy, and then from there I had reconstruction. I had chemo, about 8 rounds of chemo, but before my first treatment, they gave me a shot to suppress my ovaries. My cancer was estrogen positive, so they wanted to make sure that all of the estrogen in my body was at as low an amount as possible. And then after chemo, I went through 33 rounds of radiation. And then they put me on aromasin for 10 years. And so after all of the surgeries and the treatments, I decided to get my ovaries removed as a precaution. I once was enough for me. I didn't want anything else in there that could kind of go awry. Um, so I having the diagnosis and having to go through menopause at the age of 31 wasn't on my life bingo card, to say the least. Going through chemo itself is tough, but adding on top of it the side effects of not only chemo but menopause it was interesting. It was interesting to do. Um, it gave me a lot of perspective, though. It was a hard journey to go through, but it gave me a lot of perspective on life and really helped me to make decisions and changes in my life that I probably wouldn't have made otherwise.
I love that you mentioned perspective, and that is truly a gift. And it's so easy for us to forget that if we go down the rabbit hole of really feeling self-pity. And that's not to say that you didn't feel highs and lows, but I really do appreciate that you want to share with us that perspective is such a fundamental part of how you deal with anything, particularly something as just life-changing as cancer in that journey. So we know you as also as a creative entrepreneur, and I think that it seems that creativity played a big part in your journey. Would you like to tell us, did it help in your healing? Did it, that perspective you mentioned, how did your creativity inform that?
Yeah, so for me, when I was creating, whether it was through painting or knitting or photography, whatever it was that I was creating at that time, it not only gave me a way to really process my emotions, but it really helped me to rediscover myself and who I am. It gave me permission to actually feel and let out all of the emotions and the trauma from everything that I had gone through. Um, and it was a really great place for me to kind of go and kind of go inside when everyone around me was saying that they understood how I felt and they couldn't, how could they understand? It also, most importantly, helped me leave my office job of almost 11 years to start my own business, which was absolutely terrifying, but it gave me so much room to live my life and it provided me with a type of freedom that I had never experienced before.
Goodness, that is really beautiful. I love, your that linkage of creativity and the safety to explore a creative side because there's no such thing as right or wrong, making mistakes, as it were, doesn't matter. It's all part of a process. And then linking that to a sense of freedom, which I think you talk about, that's quite a risk to leave a job that you think would represent stability. But what you've shown us is that, that bravery that it takes to just why not live life to the fullest and really fulfill yourself, particularly in light of what you faced before. So again, that's really inspirational. So, I mean, part of this, we see you as this thriving, creative entrepreneur. Do you have people who come to you for guidance? Do you see yourself as a mentor in any way? And, what advice do you give those people?
Yeah, I feel like I have a lot of people coming to me, whether they're just starting out in their journey or they're kind of at the point where it's been a few years. Um, when after I went through everything and all the appointments started to settle down, I went through this period of, will it return, won't it return? So it's kind of this limbo of what's really going on, what is normal, I want to return to normalcy. So that's a really tough part that a lot of people don't talk about. There's a lot of people that will talk about, when you're in the trenches, but then when you're outside of that, what does that look like? You've gone through all the things. Sometimes your support system isn't as strong as it used to be because everyone assumes that you're kind of out doing the thing and living life. Um, so I just like to make sure that if there's people that I know that have been through it, I'm kind of checking in with them every so often just to say, I haven't heard from you, just wanted to check in. And my phone and messages are always open for anyone that has just been diagnosed and, has no idea how to sort out their feelings or, what to think, or if they're going to chemo, what should they do? What should they bring? How should they be thinking about it? Those kind of things. I feel like I chose to have my journey going through cancer as something that I needed to look at in a positive way. I feel like in a way it actually saved my life. Um, so I want to make sure that I'm able to support other people in whatever ability that looks like.
That is wonderful. I think that's one of the things that's going to stay with me when you said, basically your diagnosis for cancer actually saved your life, which is the complete opposite of how we look at the diagnosis. And I think that really is just this beacon of hope that we all need. And I really appreciate that you've mentioned the levels of isolation. It's funny, you mentioned earlier, it can be a very isolating experience to have the diagnosis, but when you're quote unquote better and you've recovered, it's still isolating because people think that, okay, as you said, you're just gonna, hit the ground running and get going, but there's still all the remnants because there is trauma involved with a diagnosis like that. So we really appreciate all your insights. I mean, and I'm sure we'll come back to you and have another discussion for sure. I mean, I know I'll be thinking about this a lot in a positive way. So thank you for your insights. And I mean, we will now go to Kayla, who is here with us as well, Kayla Sadowsky. And
Lynn,
we
I'm going to
know,
send you an email after this because as someone who went through this so young, just like me, and now looking
yes.
back 10 years later, I mean, I thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your story and being a resource because it's so true. It slows down and then you kind of like what next? Like that's the thing you have
Yes.
to navigate too and
Yeah.
that people don't talk enough about. So thank you for saying that.
And we're
Yes,
here
of
to talk
course.
about it now. We're here to talk about it
Yeah.
now. We're here to talk about it now. So I mean, so Kayla, it's great that you jumped in because we you've mentioned that getting a diagnosis like this so young, and it's interesting you say that. Someone in my life recently who, again, I won't age myself, but is a former student of mine because I was a teacher in another life. She has just been diagnosed as well with breast cancer and is very young as well, again, just in her 30s. So I can imagine this must be something that is transformative and not necessarily in a positive way when that, initially happens. I mean, can you share with us what was it like for you initially, Kayla? And I don't mean that to sound superficial, but from what you're saying and how did, what Lynn's story resonated with you, that's significant, the age at which you're diagnosed. You want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, sure. So I was diagnosed in February with stage 2A IDC. I had no known history of cancer of any kind in my family. So it was really a total and utter complete shock to get the diagnosis. So I had gone in for a gynecology appointment. They did their checks. There was a lump that my gynecologist actually noticed. But she kind of brushed it under the rug and she was like, oh, it's probably a cyst, with your family history and with your age. Like, I wouldn't worry about it. So she still recommended that I get an ultrasound. And so thankfully I did schedule it, but I went into that ultrasound completely unconcerned about anything. So when the radiologist came running into the room, and said, we're concerned with this lump, I still didn't believe it. I was like, it really was hard to believe and shocking when I got the diagnosis. But then the pathology report comes back and you kind of have to make a game plan. The other thing too with me and my age being a factor is I also had to think about my fertility and freezing my eggs. So that was a whole other component to all of this. Before I could even start treatment, I had to go through the process of freezing my eggs, which is a very involved, shots every single day, monitoring your hormones. It's a surgery when they take them. So, that was something else on top of all of the other needle pokes and MRIs and things like that I had to kind of go through, which I am grateful for it. I mean, of course, I would do anything to ensure that I can be a mom one day. So to even be able to do that and have that opportunity is I'm very grateful for it. But not to say it was easy, but and so then from there I did 6 rounds of TCHP chemotherapy once every 3 weeks. And then in August, end of August, so like 5 weeks ago, I had a double mastectomy. So I'm still I'm still recovering. And thankfully, I had a complete response and I am officially cancer free as of like a week and a half ago. So so it was I want to say it was kind of a short journey, I will say, thankfully from February to September. So that's kind of it happened so quick and it kind of feels like it ended so quick, but that's to Lynn's point about how you kind of go through it and then it's like, okay, it almost feels like you had like this big, huge birthday party isn't a good analogy because that's something good. But like when everybody leaves the party and you're left with the mess and you have to clean everything up, that's kind of what it feels like now. It's like, okay, I did all the hard stuff and it's over, but now I'm left with this mess to kind of sort through and work through. So it's a lot.
That is a lot. And I mean, the grace with which you've described that is just really hitting home in terms of it's an excellent analogy. That idea, it's anticlimactic in a way that's,
Yeah,
really and truly, in a way, it's good because it means things are quote unquote better. But the legacy of the experience
yeah,
in your whole emotional landscape is something that, again, very few people would be able to appreciate and relate to. So that's why I think we need to be able to talk about it in this way and have it as a way that we can heal. And yeah, when you described, because when you were talking about February and you mentioned August, and I was like, but wait a minute, that's just the other day.
I know.
So the way that your life did a complete turn, that is really resonating. And again, we see the need for these kind of conversations. So we really appreciate that. And I know that
Thank you.
part of your story is definitely, your amazing grandmother, who, if
Yes.
you wouldn't mind sharing that, I know this
Yeah.
is something that's private, but we would be, honored
No,
to hear.
I would be happy to. So I don't know if you caught, I said no known history, okay, of cancer.
Yeah.
So in April, after I had already been diagnosed, my maternal grandmother actually was having some pain and she had some imaging done. And as it turns out, she had breast cancer. So she didn't tell anybody. She didn't tell my mother. She didn't tell any of her siblings, nobody until maybe like a week after my surgery. And she said that she had been dealing with breast cancer, but didn't want us to worry, didn't want to take quote unquote the attention away, and of course this whole thing has just been a lot on my mother as well. I mean, imagine seeing your daughter go through something like this. I give her, you know, all the credit in the world to have to shepherd that burden alongside me because I know she would give anything to take it away. Um, so my grandmother sadly passed away 2 weeks ago. So
I'm
yeah,
so sorry.
she it is pretty crazy. I mean, I definitely still have a lot to process with, my own stuff and then also the grief of losing her, but to have breast cancer at the same time as my grandmother feels like if you had told me last year that that would be the case, I just would never in a million years believe you. It's just things happen and you can't predict and you can't understand why they happen or what the lesson even is. But I know there is a lesson, and I just think with time I'll understand. But it's been a hard year, to say
Yeah,
the least.
and I can, again, I can imagine, and also, I think the dignity with which you're describing what happened to your mom and your grandmother, and I'm seeing the value of this, the intergenerational sisterhood, the intergenerational links that,
Mhm.
and in my belief system, your grandmother will always be with you. She's
Yeah.
always going to be a part of you and your life, in your world now, and I think that's something that you're honoring her presence by being here, I believe, and talking about this. And something that really resonated when you started telling your story was the importance of self-care. When you get these, you go in for checks and you saw even though the radiologist was so urgent, there's something in you that wasn't processing it, right? Because how could it be real? So it,
Yeah.
it is so important for us to make sure that we do look after ourselves as women, and we do try to do our best. And I think you mentioned that you're not sure what the lesson is, but I'm sure there's a message that you would love for other young women, and trust me, I know that you are young, other
Mhm.
young women to hear from your story. What message do you think you'd like them to really take away from all this?
You know, so what before I was diagnosed, I always saw people with cancer as people on the movies who, they're sick constantly. It's kind of like they have to halt their life in a way to go through treatment. But every day is different. I mean, one day you could be feeling really awful from chemo and want to spend the whole day in bed, and that's okay. But there are days when you feel good enough to, I went to two weddings. Two of my best friends got married, and when I was diagnosed, I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to go to their wedding. I was able to go. I felt I felt awful, but I did it. But like, you don't have to just, lock yourself in the bedroom. You can go out and be and do and still be you without being necessarily a quote unquote sick person. So I think if God forbid, if you're a young person and you're diagnosed, don't think that your life is stopping. This is just a roadblock,
Oh,
and you
that
can
is a
still,
That's beautiful. This is just a roadblock. Again, something else I'll remember from this conversation. And I think that, I mean, Siobhan, I'm sure that you must have a few reflections on what you've heard just now, and the way that these two incredible women have tackled the journey.
I definitely have. I'm going to put everybody on the screen. Is that all right?
Sure, yeah, that'd
All
be
right,
awesome.
here we go. Add a spotlight. There we go. Now it's a party.
Mhm.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. And I didn't realize that you were so young, so I feel like your grandmother because I'm older. I had already gone through menopause, and so but I did reach the age of 61 this summer, and I didn't think I was going to. So, because when they tell you that you have breast cancer and you have 6 years left to live, and your lung is filled with fluid, it's body fluid, and you can't breathe, you just think you're going to die. And then you want to. And you go through for me, I went through a lot of dark moments, but I'm a strong survivor. I've always been. And so I just dug deep in and reached in and went, okay, and I need to pull those weeds out, and I need to grow something beautiful. What I find very interesting, and I want to hear what you guys think about that, is all the breast cancer women have, it all seems very different. Like there's a lot of letters and a lot of acronyms being flung around, HER positive, and then there's HR negative. John knows better than I do because I'm just so confused with all those things. And I mean, you had a 2A IDC. I had never even heard of that, right? So I I think that it's so interesting that there's just so many different variations of the same disease.
Yeah, that's a good point. And even in just discussing our guest tonight, how that, as we say, there's no one size fits all approach.
Yeah.
And there are some days when, Kayla, as you were saying, you feel as if, just want to huddle into the covers and lock your door against the world. But then there are the times when you can, go out and do and be. And I think, also, Lynn, I got that impression from you too, in your story and your creativity, and using this creativity to really help you to navigate what must have been a very tricky time. So yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that I kept going by is that, and I tell other people, is that take it hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second, whatever it is that you need to take it by, just to get through whatever that uncomfortableness is. Because at
Yeah.
some point, there's going to be some sort of something will give, and you'll have a moment of
Yeah.
but it's just sometimes getting through it and just taking it that second by second, because there's so much that gets thrown at you. It's a lot. It's a
And
lot.
I think that people look at you and you don't look sick. If they'd seen me in the hospital, and I've had to send some pictures to some people that have told me that I don't look sick, so I must be faking it.
Mhm.
I've had to send them. I'm happy to send all my scans to show you how lit up I am. It's like a Christmas tree from the neck all the way down to my knees, I guess, as far as they go. But here's the thing, is that you can look healthy because you felt healthy just before you got cancer, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, it comes out of the blue. There's nothing wrong with you. And the only reason I knew there was something wrong was I had really bad allergies, but it wasn't allergies. It was my lung filling up with fluid. And the cancer had eaten through the lining of my pleura, which is the lung sac. And so my body fluid was filling up and my lung was crushing like a crumpled piece of paper. And that is the only way I would have known. And it's like, somebody upstairs said, okay, this one's too strong. We got to get her into the hospital. We got to fix her because she's just going to drop and we can't lose this warrior. Right. I want to think that way. And so what I found was I didn't have obviously a lot of energy when I was in the hospital. I was out of it. I was foggy. I had my oxygen level was under 90. They had trouble keeping it higher. They had to keep me on oxygen. If I ever took the oxygen thing off, it would be not good. They alarmed the bed so I wouldn't get out because I was so weak. They wanted to make sure that if I got up just to go to the bathroom, that somebody was there watching me just in case I dropped. And it was just John and I. We're not anywhere near my family, and so they couldn't. I mean, thousands of miles apart. And I didn't even call and tell them because I didn't want them dropping everything and rushing and coming to sit with me, because that chair in the hospital room was really uncomfortable. I have to do something about that. So what I want to know is how do you think it was for your caregivers, the people Kayla, you talked about your mom a little bit, but do you want to give a shout out to anybody who showed up for you?
It has to be my husband. I mean, he was a pit bull the entire time. That even like the day we even thought it might be cancer, he was like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get this surgeon, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. He made all my appointments. He like got all the medications I needed when I needed it. He was like my logistics warrior. And also, for the emotional aspect too. But I really, and we got married a year ago, so what a way to kick off the first year of marriage in sickness and in health. And truly, we literally look at each other all the time and we're like, we can get through anything after this year. So we were supposed to take our honeymoon actually in May and had to cancel that, so now I'm gonna get to go on my honeymoon. Thankfully, we're rescheduling it. I'll have my nice new booth. So
That sounds
but
awesome.
yeah, my husband has been a total rock star, an angel on earth through all of this. So I'm very, very grateful for him.
Wonderful. What about you, Lynn?
Yeah, so I had a great group of family and friends that really kind of gathered around me and lifted me up when I needed to. Kind of similar to you, Kayla, I had just started dating someone like a month or two before my diagnosis. And he really stepped up and, helped to cook the meals, made me laugh, made sure that I had everything that I needed. And so that was a huge help. And I had it so that people would be rotating in the chemo room to keep me company. And I didn't realize that that was something that was special until I would see the other people that were kind of sitting there that didn't have anyone with them. And so it was a little bit like, oh, you kind of step back and it's like, oh, it's just feeling all of the energy of the people around me. really helped on those days that I could have just thrown in the ticket and called it a day, but they really helped.
Mm, That's wonderful. And I think, you mentioned there the energy of the people around you. That's so important. And I think if there's any time that you feel that energy as palpable, it's when you're that in your situation and you get the same perspective that you all mentioned. So I think that's fantastic. And Kayla, you need to come on to Barbados on your honeymoon. This is where I am. Come visit me.
Yes, I would love that.
Yeah, you have an open invitation. So, I mean, this has been just an incredible conversation. And Siobhan, you need to go visit me as well. We need to do a Cancer Bites retreat. That'll be the next thing we have to think about, right?
Oh yeah, let's just pile it on.
Yeah.
You know, you think about the anxiety, just the normal everyday anxiety, and then you layer on the cancer and all the appointments. And my cancer journey is different than Lynn's and different than Kayla's, very different.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not lopping off my boobs. They're not they're I feel very fortunate actually because I don't feel sick. John went through cancer 23 years ago. He's a survivor. So my spouse was a cancer survivor. And the minute I got back from the hospital, the next morning, he maybe let me sleep in till about 10. And he came and he said, "Get up. We're going shopping." Well, you say shopping to me.
Yeah.
And I'm up. I don't care what I look like. I think I'm going shopping. I was going to get new clothes or something. I was so excited that I just pulled myself out of bed and I pulled my hair up and I probably put some lipstick on and off I went with him. And he took me to the grocery store. He pulled up, he jumped out of the truck. He went and got this little cart that the seniors use. And he said, he got me out of the truck and I could not stand. I was doing this like sort of wave, right? And he put me on the cart. He said, "Hold on to the cart. I'll be right back." He went and parked. He came back and in we went. And he said, "We're just going to pick up a few things." I ended up walking the entire circumference of the grocery store. I shopped the outside aisles, right? And then we left. And I think he did. I don't even remember. My brain was so foggy. I'm sure he picked up some groceries, but he got me out. The next morning, he did the same thing. He knew what it took to get through it because he did it. And I remember going with him. And he was in worse shape than me because he was, hooked up to the IVs with the platinum chemo. I think it was new back then. And they brought him right to death's door. He saw the white light. He has a whole amazing story that if I could ever get him to come on camera, we'd hear. But it's the caregivers that are amazing because they're going through the shock and awe of the situation. He said he loves me more than he ever did in 32 years we've been together. Because that's not how he shows love. He goes, "Me too." He does that, "Me too." Right? But he said it every day. And he would do the things like he did the laundry. Never's done the laundry, right? It's amazing what people do. And I want to ask you, I know we have maybe about 5 minutes, Stacey.
Yeah, about 5 minutes, yeah.
When you get to that cancer-free, and I don't even know if Facebook and YouTube allows us to say cancer-free, but I'll say cancer-free. So you get to a point where you don't have to do treatment anymore. There's no, you're not lighting up like a Christmas tree with your PET scans or, everything seems to be back to normal. What does that feel like? Do you feel that it's like, yeah, I'm free? Or is it, oh, I'll just wait for the other shoe to drop?
A very good question. Lynn, do you want to go first with that one?
Sure. So I have to mention to the caregivers, a little shout out to my sister. She was going through her LNA program after my surgery. So she came in and took superb care of me when I was, just laying in bed, not able to move. So I really need to shout her out for that. In terms of getting the cancer free and then the appointment stop and you're kind of on your own, it took years for me to kind of feel. I feel like there's still, even 11 years later, I'm still feeling like I'm still getting to know my body and how it works and how it feels. And I think that probably after about 4 or 5 years, the anxiety of will it or won't it started to subside a little bit. Um, but it's always that constant reminder of to do things that you're afraid to do because you never know. It might not be cancer, it might be something else. There's all sorts of ways that you can get taken, but going through this, we know that what it feels like to get diagnosed and what it feels like to go through all of the things. Going back to me saying it gives perspective, it just makes me want to live that much harder and do the things that, I might have been scared to do before, but really trying to just get out of my comfort zone and live as much as I can. But I feel like there's always that something in the back of your mind that's just kind of, it might be a self-protection thing that is just trying to keep you safe.
Yeah, and what about you, Kayla? I mean, I think we're learning so much tonight about what the reality of this is, How about you?
Yeah, for me, so I actually still need immunotherapy treatments
Mhm.
just as part of my oncologist is just treating me very aggressively just because of my age, and so I still have those appointments, but I would say it's the latter, feeling like the shoe to drop. I mean, I've always been a very anxious person, so I do think if something can go wrong, will. And
Mhm.
this time, I unfortunately, the one time
Mhm.
when I wasn't anxious about the appointment, it turned out to be the worst possible thing. So, but then I think to myself, would I have acted any differently if I was anxious? Would I have made the appointment sooner? No, I wouldn't. The appointment would have been the same time it would have been, and worrying about it and having anxiety about it wouldn't have made me find the cancer any faster per se. So I think the lesson for me is just to do what you can and don't get in your head. So, I mean, I still have to navigate this new life post cancer, but I want to say that I'm going to try not to be anxious all the time. I know that's easier said than done, but yeah, that's kind of how my brain is right now.
Well, we appreciate you sharing, and please, we're here. You can talk to all of us now,
Yeah.
so we're just like an email away, a call away, a Zoom away. We're here
Absolutely.
for you.
I'm going through it. I'm going through a different journey than both of you. It's been so amazing to hear it because it actually does give me hope. I'm like, maybe the other shoe won't drop, and it makes me realize that, surviving and survivorship is not a one size fits all thing. It just, every voice is different. Every voice brings hope and strength in different ways. And I think that's marvelous. And I can't wait to see how Cancer Bites and our community develops. And I want you two to know that you are our first guests. There's something very
Yeah,
special about that.
yeah.
And I mean, I wish, I think I might be able to gift you these books if you want. This is our guest, Dr. Christina Pozo Caterman. She's going to be here on the 14th. She wrote this book, Coping with Cancer in Early Adulthood, and it's 4 gift bags for breast cancer patients. And you guys are still patients. You have patience, Colin.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make sure I drop that in the mail for each one of you. And if you
Thank you
don't,
so much.
if
Thank
you read it and you want to pass it on to somebody with breast cancer, please do. And Stacey, what are we doing next?
Sure. So we're just going to wrap up, and so please, again, just thank you so much to the incredible stories that we heard. You all are amazing women, and it's changed my life just listening to both of you. I felt this very deep inner shift in a good way to a sense of gratitude to know that you all are, part of my world now, and we were so honored to hear your story. So and the seed of hope that you've planted, and know that you really are having an impact by sharing your stories. So we want to thank you all so much for your courage. I mean, Kayla, I believe you're on Instagram, right? I think you
Yes.
you are, yes. So that's great. And I mean, and if you want to share any of your, social media, we believe that, as we say in the hardest battles, hope bites back. So that's why we're biting back at Cancer Bites. And, please, we will be putting more details about how we're trying to support breast cancer survivors and thrivers with gift bags and notes of encouragement. And we have updates on partners that we'll share on our social media. And with that, I will bring an incredible evening that I don't want to end, but has to end. And just to say thanks again so much to you wonderful ladies. This was really an honor for me.
Thank
And
you so
you
much.
have a
Thank
friend in
you.
Barbados. You have a friend in Barbados here in the Caribbean. Keep in touch and let's come visit me.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
You don't have
Thanks
to
so
tell
much.
me twice.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Twist
Thanks so
twist
much.
my arm.
Getting your
Great.
airline miles out right now.
Thank, thank you, ladies, so much for this amazing time. It was wonderful to have you as our first guest.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you. It was
you.
wonderful being here.